this meeting to order. I think everybody's here present that's going to be joining us. Corey is going via Teams, and potentially some of the golf advisors as well. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Not a whole lot of announcements. I'd like to move the golf management service recommendation up to the front of the list. The board does have to catch a 4:30 flight, so I would like her input on that topic. Public comment. Harold, I promise you can go first, and I'll stick to it. So take it away.
My name is Harold Schleckaway, and I reside at 351 North 3rd Street in the Delano District, which is the 6th Council District. I'm a member of the Sierra Club. I'm an elected member of the Executive Committee of the local South Wing of the Kansas chapter of the Sierra Club. My remarks here today, though, I've discussed those with the Executive Committee, and I hope that we will be taking some action soon. My ask and my represent myself as a resident, as a citizen of Wichita. I first became concerned about our tree canopy because of the large number of trees that have been removed within a few block radius of my house, and because of nearby development across the river near Old Cowtown, parking lot there that was put in for Botanica, and the area north of Sim Golf Course, there were a number of houses that were going up. My concern in both those areas is those are places where trees could be planted. I do want to say that whether we can agree on our concerns, on all of our concerns, all that should be done about them, I do believe we all care deeply about our city and our environment. I all believe that we're all doing the best we can. I've asked to be on the public agenda because all the signs point to a fast diminishing of tree canopies that affects trees that are located both on city rights of way, parks, and private property that can be regulated by a new, probably drafted tree ordinance. The causes of this looming eco-disaster are drought and freezes that take a toll on mature trees, the diseases, the underfunding of the forestry section, and a tree ordinance that does not do enough to protect mature and growing trees against development or encourage tenants, landlords, and homeowners to grow trees. I have three asks of the park commissioners. One, to recommend increased funding for the forestry section to be able to meet the ICMA benchmark of one tree planted, one tree removed. Two, to recommend the city fund a new geospatial canopy assessment study. The last one was done in 2017. And finally, to support our vision and amendment of the tree ordinance to require developers to maintain and nurture all mature trees on property to be developed, as well as plant new ones in return for generous benefits developers receive in the city of Wichita. But first, I want to briefly say why trees are so important here. They're important for quality of life, amenity, and help mitigate the effects of climate change. 2020. And three, the rapid increase in buildings, parking lots, and other development since 2017 has destroyed more mature, growing healthy trees and removed land that otherwise might have been planted with young trees. We need a geospatial tree canopy assessment to provide the facts necessary to address the crisis. The last geospatial tree canopy assessment study was done in 2017. The results are available in the 2018 report you can find online. The study is important because it gives us a benchmark to see where we have come since 2017, hopefully a chance to do better in the future. Moreover, it tells you where the problem is, breaking it down by city council district, census tract, income levels, percentage of low-income resident in an area. You can slice the data any way and slice and dice it the way you want. What provides information and data to make an informed decision, and we'll say that a tree inventory does not provide the same level of information that a tree canopy assessment does. A new geospatial canopy assessment will allow us to see the trajectory of change since 2017, both on public and private land. Tree inventories will not tell us what's going on private land. We need to see exactly where we're going, what we need to do. What's crucial, we don't have to wait for a study to do something right now, and that goes back to my ask. Fund the forestry division to be able to meet ICMA benchmark of one replacement tree for every tree removal. That's right now. You don't need to do a canopy assessment for that. That just makes us level with what the ICMA says. That's good practice. To do that, recommend the city to fund that new geospatial tree assessment. And finally, ensure that the new tree ordinance requires developers to protect existing mature trees and canopy in return for the sizable benefits they receive from the city. I thank you very much for being able to present you.
Harold. We will be hearing an update on the tree ordinance and tree canopy later on today, but maybe that's something that we can look at for next meeting, coming meetings. Thank you. I think everybody else on public comment is going to talk about golf. What I would like to do is hear the presentation prepared from Troy. Is that going to be you today? The minutes. Sorry, did I overlooked it? Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes from January 10th? Any comments, omissions? I would move to approve the meeting minutes from January 10th of 2022.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Troy, take it away. I will point out, I believe I saw Josh Lesnick on the Teams meeting, so if anybody has any questions for the Kemper representative.
So Penny is looking for the PowerPoint. Just wanted to share that I did send out a draft of the contract last week, as well as the part for the FMB as well. To make it a little bit better understandable, when we were negotiating with Kemper, we had talked a little bit about the FMB and the situation with the, if we do a contract with them, actually retaining 90% of the FMB revenues. They would be putting in $150,000 worth of capital improvements into the restaurant areas. There's also the flip side of it, from some feedback that we received from Mr. Ferris, that if we would look at the opposite way, where it would be included in the operating budget, and that they would get only 10% of those revenues. So we have the actual contract, but if it was going to go the opposite direction where they would only receive 10% of those revenues, we would build that into the operating budget. That would also go into the contract, the main contract that we're doing. So just wanted to clarify that. I had a discussion with Nancy this weekend. She asked some questions, and that was one of the things that she had some questions about, so I want to make sure everybody understood that. I tried to make that as clear as I could in the email. So, all right, so here we go. Professional management, company selection. Let's see here. All right, so how do we get here? There's been a long discussion in regards to what's the best way to manage the golf courses. It's been discussed in the past in regards to whether we should have a third-party management company manage the day-to-day operations of the golf course. That happened 10 or 12 years ago. And then it recently came up again about two years ago, and a couple different aspects of how that would work. Some of the big things that was really concerning was prior to the pandemic was we were seeing a consistent drop in course usage, which had an impact, obviously, on the revenues of the golf courses. So that was one of the reasons that was led to closing CLAP, was because of the reduced amount of rounds, as well as the huge amount of overhead that we had on all the golf courses, but particularly in regards to CLAP. Just the replacement of the bridges itself was going to be $8 to $10 million, as well as some major work on the irrigation. So some other items that we looked at was in regards to what is the declining rounds across the country. We knew it wasn't just here in Wichita, but this was prior to COVID, and we saw that there was definitely a decrease in regards to the number of rounds that were being played across the whole country. COVID-19 has temporarily revitalized the trend, and some places think it's going to keep it a little bit more sustainable. So far, we think that's going to happen here in Wichita to a certain extent. I'm not sure if we're going to plateau, but we keep seeing increases every month, and over the last year we did really, really well. So it really depends on who you're talking to in regards to what they think the trend is going to be. I've gotten a lot of different opinions from both sides in that aspect. So there was a committee that was created to go through all the RFPs. We did put the RFP back in early fall, and then in November we actually, I think it was November, or was it late October, we actually hosted interviews and went through 4 different interviews with 4 different companies. Kemper came out to be definitely the number one. So somebody that we thought was going to do a great job in managing our courses, has a lot of experience with many other municipal courses across the country. So some of the things that was really kind of items that they really kind of brought forth was an item in regards to the F&B. This is what I was talking about earlier, that in option 1 that they would put in $150,000 worth of improvements. And with that, they would keep 90% of the F&B revenues. Option 2 would be the exact opposite, where they would only keep 10%. It would be part of the operating budget, but that would not include $150,000 worth of improvements. So Kemper has a lot of expertise on their team, an agronomist, amongst many other things. We really know that they'll step up a lot of the marketing opportunities. They'll be able to reach out to some new customers and work with some of our junior golf and first tee folks. And we know that they will be very, very involved with the community. We want to ask them to create an advisory board, and they definitely feel that that's going to be a huge asset for them to make sure that they're working with the golf community on a regular basis. They'll make improvements to the golf courses, and depending on the rounds and revenues, they provide a strong performer that would provide $500,000 to $600,000 of return to the city. They would be utilizing the current staff as well as the current point-of-sale system and the mobile app that we have already put a lot of effort and money into. So it's been a great investment in those two areas, and that investment will continue with their operations. So here is a quick overview of the pro forma that they provided. And with this one also was really kind of interesting. They came up with this bottom line. This was what was staff interpreted from their numbers, but didn't include the food and beverage and maybe some other special events, which would be other golf revenues. So some of the expectations and city responsibilities, these a list of things that we have agreed upon that's been highlighted in the contract, some of the things that we have been negotiating and want to make sure that we are on the same page on everything. So we were very, very detailed in regards to the RFP. The RFP had really high standards in regards to how to maintain the golf courses and all the facilities. And so that was actually an addendum that was added into the contract, which you guys had a chance to review. So everything in regards to how to mow, when to mow, how to take care of the sand traps, everything from the tees to the greens, how to take care of our equipment, how to take care of the facilities. It was very, very, very detailed. Our expectation of KSM would be that they would have strong communication with the recreation staff and finance staff, and additionally to our customers as well. Provide feedback and expertise in CIP projects. They're the ones that are going to be operating it if this does go through, and so they would be the ones that could tell us what's the best priority and where can we spend our money the best. Because we are expecting that we will stay in the black and those dollars will go back into the golf course. We want them to provide new and innovative programs and revenue streams. We want them to develop training opportunities for staff, as well as developing some lessons for our customers as well. So we expect them to continue working with youth organizations and all of our stakeholders to increase golf opportunities, and this could be working with some of the underprivileged folks throughout the community, getting some new folks introduced to golf. And we want to revitalize the concession area at each one of the golf courses. So the city responsibilities would be to have quality communication with Kemper, manage capital projects, and work with them on continuous improvement to the golf courses, audit and review financial records and reports, ensure standards within the contract are met. That would be myself and some of my staff that would be doing that, whether it's our finance staff, whether it's our maintenance staff, doing regular audits, and we would do an annual report to council. Proposing changes in rates and memberships and other operational fees would come from joint research and would go through the park board and eventually to council for any kind of changes in regards to fees. And again, create an annual report, deliver it to the city council every year, and engage with stakeholders, listening to their opinions and concerns. So those are some of the expectations that we have for each other. So with that, the staff recommendations is for the park board to vote to move forward with Kemper Sports Management as professional management selection for the Wichita public golf courses. Kemper Sports Management would operate the 4 golf courses in daily operations. If this does move forward, we'll take it to council on March 1st. And I think one of the things that was asked was a strong recommendation in regards to whether to go to option 1 or 2 in regards to the F&B. So it would be helpful if you guys help us provide that direction, and if this does go forward to council, I'll make that recommendation at that point. In regards to the contracts, we sent that out, and I think we've shared some of the high points throughout the past months. If there's any questions, let me know. We do have Kemper on the phone, and if there's something specific that you want to ask, I think they're available. We also have some expertise from our attorney's office as well. So,
Thanks, Troy. Anybody have any questions for Troy right now?
Yeah, Troy. Vallejo here. Quick question. We mentioned Kemper Golf would work on putting together an advisory board if selected. Is that, I apologize, I don't think I saw that in the agreement. Is that somewhere in the agreement, or is that a good faith thing?
so that's really a great question, because that's something Nancy and I talked about over the weekend when she called, and she pointed out that wasn't in the contract. And having a quick discussion with Philip this morning, we talked about that as well. I think it's something that we can propose to ask to make sure that it's something that is a standard that's upheld, and we can go back. Since this is a draft, we haven't come to a full agreement yet, so we can make a few tweaks and changes to this contract. And so I would suggest that you guys make the recommendation that that would be in the contract, so we can go back to Kemper and ask them to make sure that we have that in there.
Yeah.
I think they would be agreeable to that. But
Yeah,
again,
I mean, I'd be more comfortable if that was a part of the agreement versus just,
yep, I agree.
thank you.
Okay. I think I saw Niall's hand up. We do have a couple of Golf Advisory Committee members here. So I will open it up to public comment and then go to our GAC representatives, and then we'll bring it back to the bench for discussion. Start with Dale Goder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dale Goter, 2625 West Cornelison, District 6, avid golfer, and I did get a hole-in-one last month, so you all need to respect that, please, especially you, Eddie. Okay, nothing much has changed since January. I mean, I know we have two proposals on the board, quite a contrast in that, but I guess what I want to speak to is that public golfers have made their opinion pretty clear. And that's the constituency, that's your customers. None of them, 9 out of 10, don't want to do this. They want the city to simply hire a competent golf administrator, as we have done for the last 50 years. The description of golf being in decline is a little bit overstated. The manager in his email a couple of weeks ago put it in a 20-year context, that we've been in decline for 20 years. I went back and looked at the budgets. 2002 to 2012, revenues went up for golf. It's only in the last 10 years, which is somewhat coincidental to some of the people here, so maybe there's a observation there. Golf did decline, there's no doubt about that, but it is on the rebound. I think there's a greater optimism among a lot of folks that it's sustainable, not just a COVID phenomena. I played at Auburn Hills 2 Sundays ago in January, that 170 golfers showed up to play golf. It's a tremendous turnout right now. The parking lots are jammed, and it's a great thing. So it's a good opportunity to do something progressive and move forward and take that initiative and do it right. But again, public golfers firmly believe the best opportunity and the best option is to hire a competent golf manager, a professional, somebody like Chris Toohey, who we all respect as a great golf manager. There are a lot of other Chris Tooheys out there. I'm sure we could find them. Our big concern in the two proposals, and I passed you out this little graphic just to try to, and we're guessing at some of the numbers because we don't really have access to it. There seems to be a reluctance to say what the number is that we're going to give Kemper under this agreement. It's always been said in the article in the Eagle on Sunday, Mr. Hauptman described it as a $200,000 management fee. That's just part of the story. The big part of the story is this graphic that shows what you folks in the committee picked out of that 4 group. Kemper, if they got the 90% revenue from concessions, comes in at least $500,000 over the other ones. That's bizarre that you'd pick the one vendor that was so much more expensive than the others. And Mr. Hauptman, in his comment at a GAC meeting, noted that all 4 of those proposals were very quality proposals. These are all good companies. Landmark was picked by the city 10 years ago to do this, and then we kind of reneged on it and sent them home and said, no, we're going to do it ourselves. Now we went through this this thing again, and they're not particularly happy about that. So we don't understand, public golfers don't understand why we would pick the vendor that's gonna cost 2 to 3 times more than the other ones when they're all relatively quality choices. To put that in context, on the other side of that graphic, we just tried to show how that affects the bottom line. If you give $500,000 of golf revenue to Kemper that goes into their pocket, that comes out of the golf fund, that's $500,000 that's not available for course maintenance, staff, all the enhancements, the things we want to do with public golf to make it great. I don't know how much more simple that can be, and I don't know why when we talk about it, we don't put it on the table. What are the actual numbers? What are we actually going to give them? Coming down to 10% would be an improvement, but that's still an add-on to what was not described in the beginning. Again, it just comes back to doing the right thing and making the manager do his job and hire the right person. We have a great staff that's in charge of golf right now, the club pros, the maintenance people. It's a skeleton crew. The manager has refused to hire people. At that conference call we had, Eddie, with the First Tee and Kemper 2 or 3 years ago, I made the point, please hire the staff, and the manager said he'd think about it, and nobody did. So we have a skeleton crew. The courses are deteriorating. There's no doubt about that. I can take you out there and show you and have people explain how they are deteriorating because we don't have adequate staff. We have Mr. Houtman in charge, and I appreciate him doing the work, but he's not qualified to do that job. We need to do the professional thing, hire the right person, and move forward. But those people at the golf courses are ready to go. They are enthusiastic about the opportunity that's here, but you got to give them the tools. We just don't want to give that $500,000 away for nothing. I hope you'll just pay attention to the math. And at the end, I have a lot of questions about the contract, but I'm just going to wait and see what you do with that, and we'll bring them up before the council. There are some serious problems with that contract, and I hope that you'll do the right thing, put it to sleep, and let's go back to the way we did it 50 years ago. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. I see Josh Lesnick's hand up.
My ratio is not very good. I just want to address for a second. You're saying, I think there's a little misunderstanding on the food and beverage concessionaire proposal. And again, we are open to doing it either way. But the one missing piece on the us taking 90% of the food and beverage revenue is that we are also taking all of the food and beverage risk, that we will be paying all the operating expenses and cost of goods for the food and beverage operation out of that revenue. In other words, it's more of a lease of the food and beverage operations, much like has been done on the pro shop side for years there. So it's not, I just think it's a little misunderstood, that proposal. The other proposal is saying that we would manage it for a fee, and the city would continue to take the risk on the food and beverage. Yes, they'd get all the revenue, but they would also get all the expense. So it's either Kemper taking the revenue and expense or the city taking the revenue and expense. And we really wanted to enhance the food and beverage, and that's why we were offering to put in a $150,000 investment and then taking on the risk of the food and beverage. So it's just wrong to say that it's a $500,000 fee. That's completely wrong, but I can understand how it'd be misunderstood. It's very easily misunderstood. I just wanted to address that, Eddie. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Greg? Oh, sorry. Troy, I think your mic is off.
Can you hear it now? Okay.
I can hear you.
So there was also a guarantee of $75,000 a year, or 10%, whichever one is greater. So that was something that was written into the contract as well. And looking at Mr. Goder's numbers, I'm not sure exactly where the gross revenue and the net revenue is calculated, but when we were looking at some of the numbers that we brought in this past year, we did really well with concessions. But also, that didn't take into consideration all the expenses that go with it. So that was what we've reported in the past has been the gross, but not necessarily the net. And so there's a big difference between the two.
Thank you. Greg?
Mr. Chairman, members of the park, is it chairman of the park or is it
I'll
president?
answer to anything, Greg. You know that. Been called a lot worse.
My name is Greg Ferris. I reside at 144 Bay Country. Play a little golf. Been involved with watching over the golf courses basically since 1987. We've seen some ups and downs. One of the things that I think is missed in all of the discussions of why golf is doing well, everybody just says COVID because everybody else is doing well, but just prior to COVID, the then Golf Advisory Committee recommended a change in how we structure fees in the golf courses, and that drove rounds considerably up. Some people go, well, what you're making per round is down. Well, when you drive rounds up as much as we did, they are going to go down a little bit, but more carts are being rented, more food and beverages being eaten. That was what we thought would happen. It took a little while for it to get into the system. I'm not going to say COVID hasn't had a huge impact. Obviously it has, but that's not the only impact. I think the new structure of fees has had a major impact, and that's why golf is continuing to do as well, even kind of in the post-COVID world. Even though it's still out there, people are back to work. People are doing, in Wichita particularly, life is getting pretty much back to somewhat normal. So I think you need to understand that as you look at why golf is doing okay. I was on the committee that recommended Kemper. Everything I say today has no negative impact or implication to Kemper. I thought they far and away were the most superior presentation that we heard. I think they're a fine company, and I think they would do fine in running the golf courses if it was selected to do that. I said here a month or whenever it was ago that there were a couple of real major deal killers for me. One was the 90%. Why the idea, and no offense to the president of Kemper, but anybody in their world would give you $150,000 to run your food and beverage in 4 golf courses if they could take 90% of the money that comes in. You have a captive audience that's doing somewhere between $400,000 and $600,000 depending on the year. 90% of that is a considerable amount of money. The risk is very, very low. So the fact that they're taking risk, again, no offense, it's very, very low. You should not, why city staff would ever recommend anything that gave them 90% and a guaranteed $75,000, the city is making far more than that on food and beverage now, and that should continue to do that. You should outright reject the food and beverage contract. It is not a good contract. It has a lot of holes in it. It makes no sense to give Kemper that type of money, and you shouldn't even be discussing it, in my opinion, but what do I know? A couple of things, particularly in the contract, that concern me on page 20 is the out-of-pocket expenses. You're paying them $200,000 to manage the golf courses, and they expect you to reimburse them for their expenses with no cap and no real knowledge of what that might be. It's probably only going to be $10,000 to $20,000 a year at the most. I don't know. Nobody knows because it's not in here, and they don't tell you what that could be. Airfare is not going down, it's going up. And so if they're flying back and forth to Chicago, that can be, if it's a $300 to $500 flight and they have 2 or 3 people doing it, it can run that cost up. And that money is coming directly out of the golf system. So it may only be $15,000 or $20,000 a year. I don't know what that'll be, but maybe they can tell you exactly what they're doing in some other, and you could cap it. I think that would make some sense if you're going to proceed with the contract. I got one really big problem in this contract, and you should too. Page 28, 11.6, restriction to employees. During the term or 1 year after the term, you cannot hire any one of their employees that they consider key employees, and they've listed who that is. That includes the golf course superintendent. So if you do not renew Kemper, you cannot go, and according to this contract, unless they give you specific permission, you can't go hire the superintendent that's running that golf course. This doesn't make much sense. It should be out of there. I understand what they're trying to do, and it should be any employee that they have today, or if it's, it needs to be a lot narrower than a superintendent or, golf course manager, because that's basically the pro. You need to have those people if they're not there anymore. So that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I've already kind of spoken on the food and beverage. I don't even want to talk about it because you shouldn't even be talking about it. That agreement is you can find anybody out there. If you want to do an RFP for food and beverage, and let somebody come in and run your food and beverage, they'll do that, and they won't take 90%. It's just way too much. If they want to take 10%, I've said all along, if they're going to grow that, I don't have a big problem with that. The last issue that's in the contract that's a little concerning to me, and I brought this up last time I was here, basically you have employees that have been great city employees that have run your golf courses, that have worked their tails off for the last 2 years, and you're thumbing your nose at their retirement, you're thumbing their nose at some of the things that they currently have that they may or may not have under Kemper. They're at a loss. They don't know for sure exactly what they'll have. I think that's a problem. I'm a little torn. I'm going to be honest with you. One of the nice things about having a management company run this is you don't have to deal with City Hall anymore. So when they need employees, they can just go hire them. No offense to Troy, but Troy has taken orders from upstairs. They said there's a hiring freeze. There's a hiring freeze whether you need people or not. They don't have to do that. That's the positive. Unfortunately, I can't think, well, there's one other positive is that they can lease equipment. The city won't let the golf courses, for some stupid reason, they won't let them lease equipment to go mow. Kemper can do that. Those are the only two reasons why you should even consider a management company. But when you look at the offset, I'm not sure that it's there. That's your job. It's not my job. I was on the committee that said they were the best of the proposals. I didn't say at that time that they should be given the contract. I said they were the best of the proposals. You now have to decide, is it really worth it to upset the golf community when really all you need to do is hire somebody really sharp to run your system? $870,000, I believe, was last year's net revenue through December 31st. The year before was $460,000, and that was closing down the golf course in the busiest time of the year, which would have been another $300,000 or $400,000. So you would have been somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.5 to $1.6 million. That's disregarding the increases the golf committee recommended many times. That's given up somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 a year. So the golf system's not in trouble. It doesn't need fixing. If you determine to go that way, I hope you'll make sure that you protect the things, at least some of the things I mentioned. Be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Ferris, any questions for Greg?
Thank you.
Thanks. Tom West?
Good afternoon. My name's Tom West. I guess I have to give my address, 27 East Stonebridge Circle, Wichita. I'm here because I am president of the board of directors and founder of First Tee Greater Wichita. I'm here today to really represent not just our interests, but what I believe are the interests of all golfers in the public system in Wichita. As you know, First Tee doesn't just teach kids how to play the game of golf, but provides a space where they can develop character and values such as honesty, respect, and acceptance. In just our 6th year as a First Tee chapter, we conducted programs for more than 800 kids at 4 Wichita golf courses, 3 of which were the city courses. The First Tee School program is in more than 70 elementary PE programs in Wichita and surrounding counties. Through our community program, we partner with other youth development organizations such as Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA. We have invested more than $500,000 of our donors' money to build the Steve Hatchet Youth Golf Campus adjacent to the west edge of McDonald Golf Course. This practice range is used by the public as well as for our own programs. We will also soon be breaking ground on our $1.2 million learning center adjacent to the driving range, where kids can come and feel safe to learn the game of golf and all of its associated life skills. I share that with you all to make one important point, that First Tee Greater Wichita is fully engaged and committed to growing the game of golf in Wichita at whatever level. That's why we strongly endorse the plan to move forward with an outside third-party management company, and more specifically, Kemper Sports. A lot of people don't really think about it, but golf course management is a very specialized business that requires professional management skills. Kemper brings all of those skills, plus more than 40 years of best practices, to all of the Wichita golf courses. I could speak about Kemper's customer service or course conditioning that I've witnessed for myself, but instead, I thought this might be useful is to listen to a few of these Google review comments from Newton Sand Creek Station, which is a Kemper Sports managed facility. There's about 5 or 6 of them. Greens are kept immaculate, fees are fair. I couldn't be much happier with anything about this course or the staff. The staff in the clubhouse are very welcoming. Rates are very reasonable and the staff is great. Never have I had a bad experience. Course greens and fairways are in excellent condition. And the staff was great and made you feel welcome and made sure you were taken care of and were satisfied. Like First Tee, Wichita, Kemper is also obviously engaged and committed to growing the game of golf. One of the founders of Kemper Sports founded the First Tee Greater Chicago more than 20 years ago. Currently, Josh Lesnick, hi Josh, by the way, Kemper Sports, he's the Kemper Sports president, serves on the board of governors of First Tee Greater Chicago. Josh also was involved in creating the alliance between the First Tee and the Western Golf Association's Evans Scholarship for First Tee kids. Over the past 2 years, I've gotten to know the people at Kemper very, very well. They are Midwestern people with Midwestern values. They understand what is needed and important to make our public golf courses something that golfers and non-golfers alike will view as an important asset to the quality of life in Wichita. In conclusion, I see Kemper as a great partner in our youth development and overall development of golf in the community, and they'll be a great partner for the park board in the city. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Questions for Mr. West?
Yep.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the Golf Advisory Committee members that are joining us today. Niall's online, and I see Michael Ward out there. I don't care who goes first, Michael or Niall, but we'd certainly love to hear your thoughts.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to y'all. Michael Ward, 1050 North Armour. I am a product of the Wichita Junior Golf Association at McDonald Park Golf Course. I am also the founder of Lowside Golfwear, which is a national apparel brand focusing on the golf market that sells apparel all across the country and into other countries as well. I am here to champion private management from my perspective. I think the word privatization leads to a lot of very good questions and a lot of just questions, but maybe, hinders us from realizing the true goal of the city, which is publicly affordable and publicly accessible golf. And I don't think at any point during our conversations, not only with Kemper, but with other entities putting out an RFP, that was in doubt. As a public golfer myself, as somebody who, as the founder of Lowside Golfwear, has really been exposed to the forefront and the changing landscape, not just of golf consumerism, but of municipal golf. I think one area outside of P&Ls and outside of a lot of numbers that have to really make sense is the experience. And I don't think it's fair to say the vast majority of public golfers in this city would be upset with this decision. I think that's misrepresented. I stand here on behalf of a group who maybe doesn't voice much opinions or doesn't come to platforms like this to say that in the spirit of experience and in the spirit of the changing landscape of what golf experience can be and what I think it should be, Kemper, through our conversations, has checked every box, in my opinion, when it comes not only to addressing things they've done at the courses they represent, but also in providing references of people they seek counsel from and advice from in the changing landscape of golf. I asked Josh Lesnick about multiple places across the country that have built community and harbors of community and built pride in their communities because of the game of golf and the municipal golf courses that those communities can offer. And his answers to those questions put me over the edge and knocked it out of the park for myself. So Josh and the Kemper team, from what they have talked about, have tremendous experience in the changing landscape of golf at places like Winter Park 9 and Sand Valley, Shoal Creek in Kansas City, Sand Creek Station in Newton, Bandon Dunes out in Oregon. And if you look these places up, I think you'll be impressed not only by what Mr. West mentioned about the reviews and some of the feedback. I think you'll be impressed by the community that's being built and then the pride that instills in a community on the back end of that. So I want to represent maybe the voice of some of those golfers who don't sit in this room. I am on board with private management, regardless of who it was. I do agree that Kemper was the best option because I think privatization is not admitting defeat. It's the self-awareness to know there's a professional organization out there who can do a better job at what we have done over the most recent years. And so I think municipal golf courses across the country, not just in this city, are in a very pivotal point where they either wilter away on a lot of the same things that Mr. Goder mentioned, or they step up and they make a hard, change-based decision to do something different and create a better environment for the foreseeable future. So just want to make that comment. I appreciate you all. Any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Questions for Michael?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Niall?
Thank you, Eddie. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. First of all, I want to thank you guys for taking time to review this. There's a lot of stuff in here that's very complicated, very legalese, very hard sometimes to understand. So I've got a series of questions, Eddie. I hope you'll be patient with me. First one, I guess, is that in regards to the $150,000 that Kemper is talking about in terms of investment in the food and beverage, it's be wise to remember that of that $150,000, inventory is included in that. The calendar year 2022 KSM will be responsible for procuring a total of $150,000 worth of inventory, improvements, and/or tangible personal property. There's nothing in there that breaks that down as to, how much of that is actually going to be spent on, divided out between those three categories. So a great deal of that $150,000 might just be the inventory of buying hamburgers and selling them. The other part that is about that F&B contract is that the city, in total, the city is responsible for the salaries of anyone who's involved in the maintenance or the delivery of golf services. F&B is broken out separately, and the city is also responsible for paying the salaries and benefits of anyone on the S&B side, the F&B side. Now, what I'm finding a little hard to understand is how that's actually going to be built and developed. Currently, if you go to Sim Golf Course and you check in, the guy that's behind the counter is going to be one of those that the city's going to pay for out of the operational side. Then if you walk around the other side of the counter and say, I'd like a cup of coffee and a hot dog, the same guy that checked me in is likely going to be the guy that goes over and provides that service. How is Kemper going to differentiate between those people that are working F&B and those people that are working on the golf service side? The way our courses are constructed, and the way their clubhouses are constructed, I think it's going to be a real nightmare trying to figure out which one's which, and how you keep from paying for the same guy for doing two different things, or paying twice for the same guy doing two different things. The other part I'd like to be sure of is that Kemper is going to be able to provide the same degree of towards the retirement and the benefits that are currently received by city employees. When they move over to the Kemper side, are they still going to have the same level of employee benefits as regards to health insurance, retirement plans, and other employee benefits? When I look at this entire contract, this whole concept, the thing that really I have trouble getting past is that the only difference between what we're doing now and what we would be doing in the future is that if we kept it in-house, we would be paying for a superintendent. Everything else that we're currently, this contract calls for us to pay for to Kemper is outside of that. We're still going to be paying that same amount. So I just don't understand why we don't take the $200,000 that we would be paying Kemper and find ourselves someone to run our golf program. So that, and there is one particular expense that I'm really kind of concerned about. On page 36, the definition of expenses that the city is going to be responsible for includes any legal fees, damages, or other costs involved in defending any employment-related lawsuits, charges, or claims involving personnel of the golf courses. The city of Wichita has no control over who Kemper hires. It has no day-to-day control, supervisory, or control of those employees. And yet we're going to indemnify Kemper for any liability lawsuits or claims that involve those personnel. I think that's a clause right there that the park board should look at and ask yourselves, is that really fair? If Kemper's going to be the ones that hires and supervises, they should be responsible for their own defense in the event that there are related lawsuits involving those personnel. All in all, I think you were advised that we are not really well equipped to take on the food and beverage part of this. That paying them 90% of the food and beverage income is just like Greg said, it's just not good business. We could do better than that. Most of the other concerns I have been addressed or been mentioned already, but I really feel like in the long run, the city is going to be much better off with its own management. We can afford that with the $200,000 that we're paying them up front. And we have our own incentive for doing better. There's nothing in this contract that requires Kemper to keep golf revenues where they're at, let alone grow them. If in fact everything that the city manager is concerned about in terms of declining use of golf, in this case, Kemper has no risk to that, none whatsoever. They're going to get their $200,000 regardless of whether there are 10 players that week or 1,000. So I asked the park board to look at this from the standpoint of we have a responsibility to be good stewards of our city assets. And I do not think that this contract or this direction is fulfilling that obligation. And if I've got any ability to answer questions, I will. I will just close by saying that I've had 2 hole-in-ones, so you're going to need to pay double attention to what I just said. Thank you, Eddie.
Thanks, Niall. Any questions for Mr. Dillmore? None. Thank you, Niall. A couple of the concerns that I've heard over the past 10 or 15 minutes or so, I'll let Josh kind of address, but one being the golf professionals. And Josh, if you want to just kind of talk about what kind of opportunities you guys will provide for not only the golf pros, but the entire staff, and then also the food and beverage, kind of some of your ideas there and what you can implement that you see in your 40 plus other municipal golf courses and 100 nationwide.
Yeah, I will. We also have our Executive Vice President of Operations on, Jeremy, and you can see him here now. And so he also wanted a chance to address some of these things, Eddie, if that's okay.
Sure.
Do you want to start, Josh, or you want me to jump in?
Go ahead.
So obviously, in terms of opportunities, I mean, I think right now, if you're a superintendent or a GM at a facility, if you've got a question, who do you go to? Who are your colleagues? Right now, we have, if you're a superintendent, you get on monthly agronomic calls with regional agronomists who provide some of kind of training and best practices, as well as the opportunity to come in and support if there's an issue, if there's an outbreak of a nematode or a special kind of fungus. We have the ability to come in and really address those issues and provide additional training. We have the ability not just to, if someone drops their keys on the table, to bring someone in the next day to make sure that the golfers and the folks who experience the course don't miss a beat, but also provide opportunities for those people to grow in their careers if they want to continue to learn. So it's a chance, instead of being in one smaller opportunity, to be a part of a larger group. and have some learning and professional growth. So that's certainly something we bring not just to the folks who work in at the shop, but on the course and in food and beverage as well. Some other things I heard that I can address if it makes sense now on some of the contractual items. Eddie, or do you want me to just take questions from you?
No, go for it, Jeremy.
So I think the issue that I believe Mr. Ferris brought up about employees, obviously any employees who are currently there would not be protected, would not be kind of limited from holding back. It's just if, someone like Chris Toohey, and I know someone made the comment that there are lots of Chris Tooheys out there. I will object to that. I don't think that's the case. Regardless, in any kind of these contracts, we put limitations. So if we bring in great experienced leaders, that in a couple of years when this deal expires, and I think it's also important to understand that this is not a 10-year or 20-year deal. This is a 5-year deal. And so if we don't deliver, you can kick us out. And I think the question being that we just want to make sure that those people, we want to avoid a situation where, and I'm not suggesting anyone would do this, someone would say, hey, Chris, what if we gave you a few extra bucks and we'll keep you and get rid of the Kemper guys? And that's certainly something we would like to avoid. But certainly any current team members can be retained, which is in the bottom of that section. Trying to think of any other items that we again, in terms of benefits, anyone working at the golf course will get the same benefits I get, which are pretty good. This is a marketplace. There is a 401k, good insurance, flex spending. It is a market-based benefit system. So I don't know currently what is offered to new employees or employees at the city of Wichita, but we have thousands of employees who are on the system, and as a benefit, we can negotiate really good rates and offer really good benefits. I will just also going back a little bit to the food and beverage, and as I said, when we got some pushback about offering a kind of a 10% commission on food and beverage, that we would take the other side of that deal too. You tell us how you want to go. So I think we are kind of indifferent to what it is, but I do think is important. I don't know how many folks have worked in food and beverage, but I've been in food and beverage for the last 30 years, and margins in food and beverage are not that high. So if you're paying a 10% rent off the top, cost of goods sold is often, 40 or 50%. You've got labor. So we're not talking about a windfall here. This was nothing that was kind of untoward or trying to slip a fast one here. As we said, we were very quick to take the other side, but the margins, if you do a really good job, you might be able to get in the low 20s. If you do a poor job, it could be 5% in food and beverage. So it is food and beverage is a tough. It's a high variable cost business, and so this is not was not meant to be us kind of slipping a fast one. I hope that addressed some of the concerns, and if there are other ones, I'd be happy to talk to them.
Yeah, I would just add, Jeremy, thank you. To talk about what the staff gets and not only a leader like Chris Toohey, who I also take offense when you say there's a lot of Chris Tooheys out there. That's just not the case. And not only that, but Chris Toohey reports to, someone who's been in the golf business for a long time. So your current staff, whether it's a superintendent, a golf professional, general manager, what they get with Kemper Sports is all of our best practices, really in each area of golf. And someone earlier said golf has become a bit of a specialized or sophisticated business. It really is. I mean, just look at no one today has mentioned the deferred maintenance at these golf courses. We all are enjoying this COVID boom, and it's a time where you can begin to look at capital maintenance issues. But these golf courses, we want to make sure they're around for the next 50 years and even beyond. And that's why the youth development is so important. That's why addressing the deferred maintenance is so important. And that's why giving your people the support that we believe we can give them is so important. And that's really all we want to do is enhance the operation. And we think, we have the history and the background that shows that that's what we can do.
Eddie, could I ask a couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey guys, this is Alejo, Cabral, District 1 representative on the park board. There was another question as well as to the out-of-pocket expenses that Mr. Ferris brought up as well, and possibly capping that. But I also wanted to touch on the employee benefits and expand on that a little bit. And Mr. Ferris, if I misinterpret what you were trying to get to, please correct me. But I think the question wasn't necessarily so much as to are employees going to get benefits, but there's several employees that have been with the Parks Department for quite a long time, and I am going to assume that their retirement accounts are vested, right? That they have, maybe a considerable time of PTO and vacation, and joining a new employer. Oftentimes, there's waiting periods for them to be able to take advantage of these things, and so my question would be, when it comes to the benefits piece, if this is something that we move forward with and Kemper hires some of these employees, will you be able to vest those retirement accounts, ensure that they're vested? Also, as it pertains to their vacation PTO, make sure that, there isn't that waiting period of 60, 90 days, whatever it may be. And then when we're looking at health benefits, those individuals that are joining the Kemper team, are we going to have them wait the 90 days, or are we just going to, or can we allow them to take part in that benefit right off the bat?
Troy, that might be
So let me start the conversation. So we have two employees that are just a few months shy of being vested. And what we've discussed was we would want those folks to stay with the city until they become vested, and then they would transfer over to become Kemper employees.
Okay.
So I think anybody who is vested, their retirement stays. Now, they won't be able to add into that particular retirement account.
Right.
They'll have a new one with Kemper that they can work with, but when they turn 62, they'll be able to start drawing from that retirement fund, okay? So this transfer is going to be, obviously, they're going to end their retirement with the city, but they'll have another retirement account working with Kemper. And as I said, the two folks that are close to being vested, we would work with Kemper to make sure that they get vested within the next 2 or 3 months. I think it's actually, it's about 2 months for each one of those individuals. Okay.
good question, Alejo. We certainly want to take care of the certain individuals that are close to being vested. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Goldblatt or Mr. Lesnick?
Hey guys, thank you so much for being here. I had a quick question in regard, and maybe you can just point me to the right place. It might be a simple answer. If under the event that a loss were to incur, that the system would be operating at a loss, who'd be on the hook for that, the city or Kemper?
The city would be on the hook for that.
Thank you.
Questions for Josh or Jeremy?
But Josh or Jeremy, were you going to answer Alejo's question about the PTO time and that stuff? Would they be eligible, current employees?
Yeah. Sure. So and obviously, as you have to imagine, we take over several facilities. So as long as they've been employees in the system for you for over a year, they'd automatically go into the benefits, and they wouldn't have to wait for contributions to their 401k and for health insurance and things like that.
Okay.
Question regarding the out-of-pocket expenses. Mr. Ferris brought up, do you have an idea of what those will typically look like for other communities that you work with?
Yeah, so these are typically, as you said, if there were, the example I used, a nematode infection within one of the golf courses, and we wanted to bring in a specialist to come look at it, typically their airfare to provide that consulting would be something that would be an allowable expense. You know, if we're going to bring in someone from Chicago to support Chris in an issue, that would be the kind of expense we're talking about. This is, you know, a year, maybe $1,000 or $2,000. We certainly are open to typically we'd say is that we'd have those, first of all, they have to be fit within the annual budget. So we couldn't kind of go off the rails there. And also we'd be open to saying, hey, these have to be approved in advance. Typically that we're not charging for that person's time or anything like that. It's just truly out-of-pocket expenses that we're incurring to support the facility.
And would you be able to share, like on average, what that looks like for these different communities?
Yeah, I think maybe a couple $1,000s. There may be times when it's zero. And if there's a particular issue, I mean, certainly if there was, let's say, our GM had COVID or had an injury, we had to fly someone in to support or drive somebody in, that would be an allowable expense typically, and out of pocket, mileage to drive from, if we brought someone from Kansas City, one of our GMs to support for a week while someone was having surgery or something was happening. If we didn't have anyone internal to do that, that would typically be the type of expense. But we're talking, I think, nominal to the larger budget.
But we can give some examples if you'd like. Probably not, I don't think anyone off the top of their head, but we can give you some examples.
That'd be great, Josh. Thank you.
Eddie, got some information texted to me. So it looks like these two individuals will probably be vested in the middle of April. And if we take this to council and it gets passed, we'll probably be working throughout a month to make a transition. So a beginning April date might be something that we'd be looking at, a transition into the new format with Kemper. So we're talking a couple weeks that we would be working with these individuals to make sure they get vested.
Yeah, to piggyback on Alejo, you were saying there was a nominal fee potentially for the out-of-pocket expenses. So it sounds like you'd be interested or willing to maybe put a cap on that just to protect our interests too.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a cap or say if we're going to exceed that cap that we need approval ahead of time.
Okay.
Just want to make sure you're not going out and buying extravagant dinners and all that good stuff. On the city coffers, that is. You can do it on your own dime, but.
That's right.
Chris, just one more quick question. Eric, could you speak? There was can't remember the gentleman who brought it up, talked about the indemnification piece of the contract. I'm sure you've reviewed it. Can you talk a little bit about what a contract of this nature would look like? There was a little bit of concern that the language may have been too broad regarding the city being responsible for representing. I just wanted to make certain you could clear that up for people who might have concern about that.
The indemnification provision is paragraph 7.1 on page 23. The city is indemnifying KSM for those provisions in that paragraph, and then 7.2, KSM is indemnification obligations for the city. So the parties are indemnifying each other for each of these provisions. I read through it, and I think the comment was that we would be indemnifying for employment issues, and I didn't see that specifically in here. And I didn't draft this. A colleague with my office did. So I had made myself a note to check with them to see if that actually is in there, clarify that. But these are, as far as the specific elements of what the city would be indemnifying KSM for, it's right here in 7.1. I could read through the whole thing for you. It's a little bit long, but I could tell you.
I don't know if we need to do that. I mean, perhaps if there's a will up here for that. I just wanted to see if you had in your opinion, just taking a glance at it, that looks rather standard, or is it out of the ordinary?
No, it's pretty standard in my review. And the individual with my office who did work on this, he does these contracts all the time. And so it's not anything unusual from what I saw when I reviewed both of these provisions. So the one question I had was what the comment was made about the employment issues. So the city indemnifying KSM for employment-related issues, and I didn't see that in this particular language. So that's why
I think that's what the concern was. So I mean, if that's not actually what's in the document, then that's.
I think the concern came up in the definition of defining operating expenses, and so if you look at A4, that's where you see those, that language that was brought up as a concern.
Oh, I see it.
Page A4,
Yeah,
A4,
Yeah.
Alpha 4.
A-4 in the back. That's where you see that language.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so that would have to be clarified,
Sure.
Yeah.
final version of the contract.
Yeah, I think that needs another look. Thank you very much.
Could I ask a question to Jeremy and Josh? Another one. I apologize.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm all kinds of curious today. Jeremy, Josh, you know, in the agreement, we don't include anything as it pertains to the creation of an advisory board. Obviously, community engagement with municipal courses is something that's really important to us as the park board. Is this something that we would be open to including in this agreement, the creation of an advisory board that has set meeting dates, meaning like, you know, we have to meet once a month, right? That type of thing?
Yeah, so as you might imagine, we do plenty of these contracts. We often do have advisory councils. I think it's important to remember, although we've called this privatization, it's really not privatization. We work for you. We make recommendations, but the city of Wichita still makes all decisions here and tells us what to do. And if the city of Wichita wants to empower a community council to help advise us and direct us, that is very much obviously within the city's rights. So we're not that we're not open to it, we're very open to it, but frankly, it's not our decision, it's yours, and will remain yours.
So if I could add, yeah, I think the responsibility is for us to make that advisory board, but I think there needs to be a commitment that they would work with Kemper, and Kemper would be willing to meet with them on a regular basis. And I think that would be something that we want in the contract. Could be something in the contract.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like, if we create this board, what's to say that Kemper just ignores the emails? Not to say you will, but, you know, just to create the language that that's something that will occur.
Yes. Would that be different than the Golf Advisory Council?
So Josh, you're not nodding your head like you would say yes. We're not sure yet. I think we're trying to find what's going to fit best in this situation. We've talked about it a little bit, but as we go forward, I think there's going to be a lot of folks that want to have some input. We need to find the right mix of what that's going to be, working with the stakeholders and the folks that really are involved with golf. I think part of it is the park board. I think it's something similar to what we have with the Golf Advisory Committee. Maybe it's a little bit broader. I don't know. We need to find what that mix is going to be. And I think that's our responsibility to make that happen. But all I'm asking is that, would you be agreeable to us having something in the contract that says that this group would meet on a regular basis with staff to share concerns, thoughts, and opinions?
Yes. Yes.
Questions right now for Jeremy, Josh, Troy, Eric, anybody?
Josh, if you could also add something that we negotiated into the contract was for 3 years, I think you guys were going to be making a $10,000 donations to our youth organizations.
Yes. That is true as well.
Well, certainly started off. So I've been in and out of a lot of meetings the last couple of years. Sat on selection committees, held special meetings, joint meetings with this board and the Golf Advisory Committee. Kemper has impressed me immensely the past couple of years, and with their experience and expertise, digging in to their other golf courses, reading Google reviews, as Mr. West brought up, playing up in Newton at Sand Creek. The entire experience from the golf course conditions to the customer service to the accessibility. I've been super impressed with their entire staff. They're great to work with. I think somebody mentioned they got Midwestern values, Midwestern people. So that's a big part of it. I think they are more than willing to sit down with us and, provide us some very valuable feedback and what they see in the market of golf. And we can implement their best practices. Certainly we want to protect our current golf staff and pros. I think they provide ample opportunity to do that. Like I mentioned, our course conditions are going to improve just based on what I've seen up in Newton. I'm really excited about seeing some of their food and beverage options, some of their ideas and some of the other things that they can implement from their other courses, what they see as successful and unsuccessful. It seems like right now we're selling a lot of hot dogs and Diet Cokes, so seeing a little bit more options there to help retain and attract golfers, especially from this, I guess it's been 2 years now, where we've seen an uptick in the golf community, being able to utilize some of their marketing opportunities, their 5 and Wine or whatever it's called, some of their fun activities that may get, somebody out to the golf course that wouldn't otherwise go. Also, we've got an off-ramp, essentially. If they don't perform, which I don't expect that to happen, we can get out of the contract. We still control the land and the fees, as Troy mentioned. So they aren't going to come in here and just start jacking up prices for the heck of it. We will still have control of that. And I've been saying this for a few months now, is that I look at it from a 30,000 foot view, and I want what's best for the city of Wichita, the golf courses and the golfers, especially the golf pros and the staff that have busted their butts over the last 2 years during COVID. And I think these guys would come in here and be an exceptional partner for us. So if nobody has any more questions for Troy or Eric, Josh or Jeremy, I would make a motion to take the staff recommended action of moving forward with the Kemper proposal.
Second that.
Got a motion and a second discussion.
There were several points that were brought up. Is there an opportunity for us to make an amendment to that motion that we include?
Yeah, let me.
Some of these things that were brought up, like the timely meeting with our advisory committee, whatever you call it. I'd love to have an explicit understanding of what the $150,000 investment would look like, because from right now, that doesn't necessarily appeal to me, just based off of some of the conversations today. But also, I'd love to have a better understanding of what that operational expense looks like, if their legal fees are included in that or not. I think that would be something that I'd like to understand too.
On the $150,000 F&B investment, I think that might be the next vote, if you will.
Sure.
So we can chat about that after this, but certainly I want to make sure that what we've talked about up here today are addressed and make sure everything's good with legal.
Most definitely. I think you guys have brought up a couple of really good points, and some quick negotiation would be something we would do the next day or two to include some of these items. And sounds like Kemper would be agreeable to the things that we talked about too. So.
Chris.
All right. Hey, I first off wanted to say thank you to everybody who has participated today. Clearly, one of the most important parts of our department here. These city assets are incredibly valuable for tangible and intangible reasons. I have absolutely no doubt, based on everything that I've heard, the recommendations of my peers and the Golf Advisory Committee, that Kemper provides top quality service within the scope that we have laid out for them as an entity. I'm certain that when it comes to them, if this measure is to pass, this body and the city council, that Kemper seems that they would be up to the task. The red line for me this entire time has been I would not feel comfortable supporting the proposal until I got a clear demonstration of a comparable proposal from the city. I understand right now that that would mean a complete overview look of our system and the hiring of several people. I made that request, and I wanted to see a report of that, and I unfortunately do not have the information to feel that I am comfortable to support this. Again, that is not to say that our staff has done anything wrong. That is not to say that Kemper has done anything wrong in this proposal. I do not have the information that I need to support this proposal, and until that, I will not be supporting it. However, regardless if it passes, I am very grateful that we've had a civil and open discussion about this, and folks on both sides of it have made a lot of good points. I just don't feel that I have been given the adequate answers that I was looking for, and for that, I cannot support this. Thank you.
So this is my 11th month on the board, and I came in on the board right as this discussion began. And we started asking the questions, do we have the knowledge, skills, and abilities within the staff we have to take these things into the next decade? And the answer we kept coming back to was, no, we do not. And what does it take to be able to have that, right? And it involves funding that we don't have, because citizens before us decided that these are going to be enterprise fund. We can't be Sand Creek because their city puts money into it, right? So ours is a business first and foremost. And every month you look at the membership numbers, we have 759 senior memberships and 199 adults. So who can grow that adult membership, right? Because this is not sustainable long term. It's just not. So does Kemper have the ability to grow this? And from their business model, they do. And that's the reality. As a park board, we have to think about lots of things, the aquatics program, our recreation centers that need money put into them, and we have to give time and diligence to all those things and support our director. Kipper's coming in and saying, we have those knowledge, those skills and abilities, and can support you in that. Would it be nice to be able to continue on to that? Yes, it would be, but we don't have all the knowledge, skills, abilities, and tools to do that. So who does? They do. We just can't keep coming around back to the circle to it every 2 years when we have other things we also need to spend time and attention to, such as the tree issue, right? Otherwise, we've wasted 11 months of our time going down this path not to finish it. That's at least my thought, right? And I appreciate everyone who's come here today and given us feedback about why we shouldn't do it. But to me, the pros of moving forward with them managing the day-to-day operations with support from the staff and from us if they need it, it weighs in that direction. So we can spend more time worrying about other things and helping, like Reggie, get more people in summer camp kids, right? That's, to me, is important just as much as anything else is. So that's just my 2 cents.
Tori, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Did you want to share anything?
Not specifically, but I'm tracking with it. I think it seems like a fairly good agreement. Customer focus is a thing that we actually need to focus on. The city is not in the business of running golf per se. So if we have somebody that wants to do it for us and we can be a partnership, I think that can be a win-win.
Thank you. Troy Alejo.
I'd just like to say that, on what Phil, not what Phil said, but I've been on this board for 6 years now, so I've heard golf a lot. And, Dale even said it, we've been doing this for 50 years, but we've been doing the same thing over and over and over for 50 years. I think that's called definition of insanity, right? So this is an opportunity for us to make a change. I feel like there's the least amount of risk with them. I think they've proven their model in many other cities, including this state of Kansas. Change is hard, but we got to do something. We can't keep doing this. I've said this on more than one occasion that we keep kicking the can down the road. we can't keep kicking a can down the road. We got to get moving. So I would support this 100%.
Leho, you want to add anything else?
No, I mean, I think the staff for, and all the volunteers that have led us throughout this process, you know, whether it's the Golf Advisory Committee, the Park Board, all the meetings that you attend, you know, that y'all are doing this as volunteers and because you care about this community, golf, and ensuring that we have quality courses for our people. And so I just thank you all for taking the time to go through this process. Yeah, change is hard.
That it is. If anybody doesn't have anything else, I think, Penny, if we should call roll here. Aye.
Pardon me, sorry to interrupt. Was there a motion and a modification or something?
Yeah, I would like to amend that motion to what we've talked about up here today. Make sure that legal is solid.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Tori.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. I'll hop on the F&B topic right now, Troy. Okay.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Find it here. So it looks like we've got two options here in front of us. Essentially, I'm going to call it option A and B. Option A is Kemper Sports would invest $150,000 into the food and beverage management, and they would keep 90% of revenues as well as take on risk. And option B is essentially the opposite of that, $0 investment. We would keep 90% of the food and beverage revenues. We would continue to manage and take on the risk at each golf course on the F&B side.
Just for clarification, it would be part of the operation budget and the operational funds.
Does anybody have any questions on that for Troy or our Kemper counterparts?
I'd love to understand what the $150,000 is that they're gonna invest. I mean, is it buying new ovens? Is it just buying burger patties and beer? And then also, it's 150 over 4 clubhouses, so really it's 37,500 per clubhouse. How far is that really gonna take us? And is that really gonna be an improvement to can you really make an improvement to the facilities with 37,000?
So
Go ahead,
Josh, you want to
Jeremy.
take that or no? I think right now we'd obviously, as we took over, would have to buy the existing inventory on. So that's part of it. This was not meant to cover all the cost of goods sold. Obviously, our goal is to try to elevate the experience, and that means buying some new machinery, whether it's impinging oven for pizzas. There's also some kind of ways to kind of be able to provide a little bit bigger menu out of a smaller space. So there are ovens who can do wings or hot dogs or different things there with minimal training and little less labor. Those machinery that can be 15 or 20 grand. It's also just making sure there's merchandisers. So we have a beverage selection. And maybe my guess is there's some equipment that's probably broken or needs to be replaced there that we can use that money towards. So it's not obviously going to be able to equip a brand new catering kitchen, but it is going to help get the courses back up to the standards of your competition, and hopefully also allow us to be able to do more outings and events if those are able to get sold.
Yeah, I think it is complicated to understand. So I totally appreciate all the questions. And, you know, as Jeremy said, we're happy to take it either way, but just trying to explain the first proposal, because the first proposal, frankly, is how our municipal partners really like to do it. So the basis for it is, as Troy said, you look at a lot of gross numbers, not really departmental net numbers. So as we try and figure out what you're making on food and beverage at the four courses, what we do is take that number and say, okay, we'll guarantee you that number. I think the number is 75,000 that we've said, or 10% or 75,000. So we put a floor in. We say you're making about 75 now on the four courses net F&B. So what we'll do is we'll guarantee you that 75 or 10%, and we're going to try and improve it. We're going to put $150,000 in. You're right, it's not going to change the world, but it is going to do some little things, just little things that are best practices we use at other courses, and say we're going to improve it. You get 10%, so you're going to get the upside with none of the risk. What if we decide, if we go this way and we say, we need a new food and beverage manager that's going to cost X if we really want to improve the numbers? Well, we're going to pay for that person, and you'd get the benefit of that 10%. So now you might make 85,000, 90,000, 100,000. Who knows how far we can improve these numbers? We're not sure yet. We need to come in and kind of learn it. We know a lot after spending the last couple of years on this, but we're going to learn a lot as well in the first season. So that's really the basis of that deal. And we're going to try and improve it either way. We'll just either have to make recommendations to you and tell you that we need to pay X in labor, and you'll decide whether you want to do it, or we'll take that part on and that risk on. It's really either way, we're trying to improve the service to the golfers. And so they come back. So they don't leave after their round of golf and go somewhere else for a turkey panini or whatever. We want them to hang around. We want them to really, we want to create that community that Michael was talking about earlier. We want them to spend their time at the city courses.
That answer your question?
Yeah, sort of, kind of, sort of. Thank you.
I guess I asked Troy this morning. I mean, what needs to be replaced, right? So $37,000. Well, yeah, it's going to go pretty quick when you start buying things. So what all needs to be replaced? Is it 9 refrigerators? I mean, what is the outcome and the goal you're trying to achieve? So, why can't we just take from the golf fund money to do that, right? So that's was one of my concerns this morning with the first proposal.
Well, let's keep in mind too, all the restaurants or cafes or whatever aren't all in the same shape in each course. So some, Auburn Hills is probably nicer than
right
Clap or whatever. So the dollars to allocate the equal dollars isn't necessarily the right way to do it.
Yeah, I think
that's agree with that.
So one course might have a little bit more
to
pull from. Yeah, I think Mr. Goldblatt kind of hit it on the head there. We're looking to elevate the experience. Josh mentioned that we want to keep the golfers there. I'll tell you right now, the options are lacking right now.
My sales guys always tell me that, right? So that's fine. That's why I was asked this morning when I talked to Troy, what will each option, if we're going to have them take this over, what do they need to be successful, right? And which option gives them the best chance of success?
Yeah, I think, they mentioned that they're good with either way. And I'll let these guys talk to you about that. But certainly when I'm looking at this, we're making a commitment to customer experience and retention and attracting new golfers. They've done this before. I don't see any reason to doubt these guys. They care about each and every one of their golf courses. Certainly, yes, each golf course is different in each municipality, but they've got the knowledge and experience to come in and determine what will make it work and create that community that Michael brought up, and that, certainly I would like to see Wichita get there as well.
Eddie, I think my only hangup right now, or my big hangup right now, is just, when we talk about the $150,000 investment, when I think about an investment, I don't think about necessarily buying inventory. If we're talking about creating a new experience, a better experience, we're talking about replacing ovens, maybe putting some new chairs in or something like that, right? That's what I see as an investment. And I don't know, it hangs me up thinking like they're just buying back the burgers and the beers and the hot dog that we already have on hand, and maybe buying a couple loaves of bread and some turkey for their panini or whatever, right? Like, that's not, in my mind, if we're trying to create a new experience, that doesn't necessarily seem like an investment. And Josh and Jeremy, I mean, I don't know if I'm looking at this the wrong way, and I understand that the food and beverage world does have tight margins, but if we're talking about creating an experience, I would be more comfortable if those inventory costs weren't necessarily a part of this piece. Because if not, then what's to say that 75,000 isn't going towards buying beer and golf balls from the shops? You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
no,
correct. It was,
Go ahead, Josh.
it's not for inventory. That's a great question. It's not for inventory. It might be for outdoor furniture. It might be for a beverage cart. It might be for a fire pit. We need to go in and decide where the opportunities exist and help try and create, enhance the experience. We're not exactly sure where that is today, but it wasn't contemplated that it was for inventory.
And then if the council or decide they want to go with the option where it's rolled into the management, we're still going to come to you with a list of what we think should be procured to try to drive that experience and drive the revenues from an ROI point of view. And it's your decision whether you buy those things or not. Obviously, if it were more of a concession agreement, we know we need those things to be able to drive the business, and we can't be on the hook to provide kind of a rent on that if we don't have control over some of those purchases. So that's kind of two sides of it. But as you said, we're thrilled to partner with you and would be happy to do it either way.
I mean, I would be comfortable with 150 if we just drop the word inventory. I think, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think
That in there.
it is in there. Yeah. I just think that as we're looking at this, if we are really going to invest, Troy, to your point, some facilities might need more than $37,000, right? Like, if Sims needs $80,000 investment, well, that's half of our 150. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'd be comfortable with that. Yeah. I don't know if there's other questions about the agreement, but I would just like to be very explicit that it doesn't include the inventory.
Yeah, if these guys are saying that they weren't aware of that, then maybe that's a contract deal.
I don't think it was our intention, but I mean, if we just have to be clear on, platters, is that, it's not really capital, but it's, we need those to operate, but I'm okay. We can certainly work after this to clean up that language.
I just want to make sure we're not spending it all on hot dogs. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. Certainly.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Although my experience is after off season, there's not a whole lot there anyway
Fair.
that you want to eat. To say.
No, it's a good point, Alejo, and that's our intention was not to include, cost of goods sold, which is really the inventory you're talking about.
Yeah, I think, when we look at this $150,000 number, I think these guys are very efficient in what they spend that in. They know what works. They know that one course will need, 2 panini presses or 4. That's a ton of panini presses. But if it gets, a group of a foursome to stay after the round and have a couple drinks and maybe some food. I know my crew likes to go over to the local Ziggy's, but if they've got a pizza oven there, then certainly we'd like to hang out and finish up our scores and payouts and all that good stuff. So I think that's kind of the community that we're trying to create.
Eddie, from staff's perspective, it was really intended for hard inventory stuff, not inventory, hard equipment, kitchen equipment type stuff, not the inventory. And we're only carrying about $2,000 to $3,000 in inventory right now.
That's like 4 panini makers.
Obviously, it's more in the summertime, but yeah, the way that we perceived it was that it was not for food inventory whatsoever. So.
Any other questions?
Real quick, hey Troy, is the 75,000, is that a number that you gave? I mean, kind of I know it's a guess, but is that the minimum, the 75,000 that comes from us, right, or from you?
It did. We actually had a little bit higher number, and we came up with the $75,000 as a joint agreement.
So it's not just, it's kind of an educated guess. Yeah.
That's the floor, correct?
Yeah, that's the bottom.
Yeah. They do $1 million of food and beverage sales, and we're making $100K in that. That'd be awesome.
This might be a question for Eric. If at the end of the 5 years, this relationship expires, and say we move forward with option 1, are we on the hook for all the panini makers?
So there's, I'll answer this. Actually, in the agreement, there's a breakdown per year.
Sure.
And by year 5, all that equipment becomes ours.
Okay, perfect.
But if the agreement dissolves prior to that, I think it goes, there's 20%, 20%, 20%.
Sure.
That we'd have to pay back.
Right.
If we entered the agreement early.
Sure. No, I just wanted to make sure that if, you know, at the end of the 5 years, we're not on the hook for.
It's ours.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
I think another important aspect of this as well is, you know, these guys need to be talking to each other, what tournaments are when. You know, I say tournaments, I should say more of events. You know, if we have a Wednesday night, you know, ladies league, I think these, you know, two operations should be talking to each other and have a good understanding of, okay, we should probably have more Cabernet or wine options for this night, but, you know, have something else for another event. Wouldn't make much sense to have 300 beers out there in a first tee event and vice versa. So, Tom, I know that might scare you, but I think it would alleviate a lot of pressure if these two would be essentially one cohesive group, you know, with a common goal.
Looking at option 1 with a clarification of language, basically then.
Correct.
You need a motion, Eddie?
I will motion, if nobody has any other questions for Troy or Josh or Jeremy. I would make a motion to move forward with option A in the food and beverage contract with the amended legal stuff that we need to.
Inventory.
Sounds like the inventory is the major hang-up that we want to scratch out. Okay.
That too.
Got a motion and a second. Penny, I'll let you call roll again here. Aye.
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 No.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Does anybody need a bathroom break yet, or we want to? Okay. I would make a motion to recess 5 minutes.
I will second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. it's already almost 5:15, so we'll try to get us out at a decent hour here. If it's okay with everybody else, I'd like to forego the staff updates this month, push those to next month when we'll have more time. But I do want to address the updates on the tree ordinance and tree canopy, as well as the Golf Advisory Committee non-attendance. I think that's something that we need to address today so that we can get somebody on there for the March meeting. It looks like updates on restroom and drinking fountain accessibility. I think that's something that Chris brought up. If it wasn't last month, a couple months ago. So if that's okay with everybody, that's how I want to proceed. Move forward. Yep. Thank you. Troy?
All right, so items for consideration, updates on the tree ordinance and tree canopy. Thank you very much for a great presentation. It was a great presentation. There's a lot of good information in that. I think if you don't have that packet, I have a copy of it. I'll make sure you guys get to it. A lot of those things that that was presented are things that we want to work on. There's still is a lot of concern in regards to protection of our trees, and there's a whole lot of different ways we can do that. If you recall, a couple meetings ago, we had a presentation from one of the fellows, Adam. He did a great job, and he showed the two different sides of tree care. Almost nothing, which is kind of what we have in that situation, all the way to something that's extremely robust that I was really familiar with in Austin. So we're moving forward with some recommendations. We're talking to stakeholders, other folks that have impact in regards to development, planning and engineering type of activities. And we want to make sure we go through this step by step. We did do a presentation to the Planning Commission, and we're going to be doing some additional presentations as well. As we kind of look at what does a tree protection ordinance look like, there's a lot of different variables with that, and so we want to go through step by step. There's also a lot of issues in regards, do we do this on public property versus private property? There's a lot of other hoops to jump through if we do this and go through that endeavor of doing things on private property. That's a whole nother box of Cheerios altogether. But we want to go through this, and you'll be seeing some more presentations in regards to what that tree protection could look like, what our ordinances would be, particularly in regards to our own projects and the things that we do within our organization for construction and construction management. So the idea of replacement of trees is nothing new, and there's a lot of different ways that we want to go about doing that. And there's on the private sector, there's a lot of opportunities to put things on or put trees in regards to private homes and to businesses, and you can find all that in the tree canopy, which was discussed. And the tree canopy gives a great view of what is being covered. A tree canopy as well as a tree inventory, those two tools together really give us a lot of information about trees, type of trees, age of trees, where those trees are on public property as well as in private. All those things are really great pieces of information. The tree canopy is a lot easier because we can do that through satellites and some other type of photograph overhead. But tree inventories is boots on the ground, actually going and checking every tree. You actually can tag those trees. You can measure those trees and develop an age for those. You can also identify what kind of trees, find out if they're the proper trees or whether they're native trees. So those are all great things that we need to do. And in the past that we've been looking for some tree inventory grants, we've had some opportunities to look for that and have not been successful. But that's something we want to continue to do, and maybe even spend some capital dollars on doing a project like that where we actually do a comprehensive tree inventory, and it would have to be on public land. We couldn't do that on private property. So those are some of the things that we've been talking about, and we're going to continue talking about that and bring more information to you and other stakeholders such as Harold, keep working on protecting our trees and planting more trees. any way we can do more plantings would be fantastic. And it can't and it won't fall on forestry to do that alone. We can do a whole lot of things with our budget, but where it really needs to come out of is through the private sector as well. They need to get incentives on planting trees in their yards, in their backyards, in their, we have a lot of factories here in Wichita that has a lot of green space. And what do they do with that? They mow it. So you're looking at carbon emissions with that. They're also fertilizing it. And you're doing that on a regular basis. If you did trees, you don't have to mow as much. There's the initial cost of putting the trees in, though. So those are all the things that we need to do and work on an education system. It would be great if we had somebody in the private sector that would help us lead that and team with them on that to educate folks in the community. So that's a quick update. Questions?
I just have a quick question. You know, back in the day downtown, when you took out buildings or you took out real estate, if you will, they had to go back in with plants or trees. Do we still do that? That's still...
So within the code, if you remember the presentation that Adam put in, there's recommendations, but there is nothing in there that holds anybody accountable. If they take out, and we do a measurement, it's called diameter at breast height. So a tree could be this big, it could be this big, it could be this big. And it's in caliber of inches. Some places, they make you replace, say if you remove a tree that is 30 inches in breast height diameter, then you have to replace a tree. And you can't do that with just one brand new tree because you can't plant a tree that's that big. So what do? You plant 15 that are 2 inch, and that equals 30 inches. Or some kind of combination thereof. And I think that's something we want to do within the city when we have projects within the city that remove trees. We want to see if there's a replacement plan, a mitigation plan to put that back into place. Some places, they'll say, well, you have to replace double the amount. There's a lot of different variations of this across the country. So,
But that doesn't exist currently in the
No.
city?
No.
What, is that something that we have, I don't want to say the authority, but is that in our scope of responsibilities to make that recommendation or policy ask of our council?
You're asking from the park board?
Mm-hmm.
You can make the recommendation, yes.
That ordinance be put in place that, if a tree is removed, that equal canopy is replanted by that respective party?
Yes, and that's what we're going to bring to you. That's what we're working on right now is we're looking at what those ordinances could look like and what are the options, specifically in regards to public trees with the property that we manage in regards to the city of Wichita. So we're working on that. We're going to bring that back. And if there is any type of ordinance, it's going to be brought to you guys for recommendations. So, as well as other stakeholders.
Thank you so much for taking this up. And I wanted to go back and thank Harold for your dedication to bringing this issue forward. Harold and I met last week on this topic, and he put before me this graph that unfortunately we don't have available to the public, but talks about the seriousness of the problem, where Harold's tracking for us that we're net down something like 22,000, if that's a rough estimate. I mean, that's just based on the available information. 22,000 total trees. That, I think everybody can agree, steps up to a crisis level that all hands need to be on deck for this. So it's my goal that as we move forward from this, it needs to be understanding that everybody will play a role in this. There most certainly needs to be recommendations put forward that provide for people. There needs to be follow through on this. We can't just make suggestions. There has to be a coherent message that if we want to increase the tree canopy, we're going to create mechanisms that make that easy. What does that look like? That looks like grants. That looks like applying for grants, aggressively applying for grants and coordinating with nonprofits to do that. That's reaching out to private donors. That's reaching out to corporate donors, nonprofit donors, et cetera. And also even the consideration of what city dollars should be used specifically. What does that balance look like? I think that any kind of punishment, any kind of requests or requirements placed on developers or on private citizens, the attitude needs to not be punishment. It needs to be education.
Right.
Because nobody's trying to actively harm the canopy. It's just, what can we do that people can easily and quickly mitigate for any potential issues, and how can we work with them? I think the way that we can overcome any kind of hesitancy that we might see is that folks can look at this and say, we're going to implement this we're going to make this work. Another thing that I think would be very useful and very important is how is it that we can deputize people? How is it that we can deputize our citizens to say, Harold told me about how 100 years ago there was and I don't know if we want to have Harold speak on this, but he talked about a plan that we put together in the city of Wichita 100 years ago to plant, what was the number, Harold? Do you know the number? Sorry, he's got a quick answer on this, hopefully. And yeah, nobody can hear you, Harold. So basically, the upshot, there was a city manager and park board commissioner.
Clapp was the park board president.
Yeah.
And he was also city manager at the same time. And he had previously been the mayor and had lobbied to set up this particular board. The city of Wichita in 1926 had 90,000 residents, and they were planting 1,000 trees a year at that time, Clapp. So a lot of these trees, you see these big old trees in these neighborhoods, they got planted by him or someone that followed him very closely, and now they're getting old. They're aging out just like all the rest of us, like me anyway. I don't know about you guys, but and they need to be replaced. Is what it is.
Understand? Just the quick question I had was what the plan? There was a plan to plant 100,000 trees more or less when the city had 90,000 residents. Was that the basic thrust of it, as I recall you saying?
I don't remember that, but I do remember they were planting 1,000 trees.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much, and I don't mean to belabor the point. The point being, thank you very much, Harold. I appreciate that, and thank you for the indulgence there. The point being is that no matter what, I would hope that we can shoot for a serious number that goes so far beyond the losses that we have that we're not coming back to this and making this, like this commitment needs to be made at a very serious level is my intention as we lay this out. So I appreciate you taking all that feedback.
One other item that Harold did mention was in regards to heritage trees, and specifically what he just talked about, trees that are 100 years old, specific protection for those type of trees. Even if those trees, maybe I'm just using some round numbers, 100 caliber inches at breast diameter, and you replace it with another 100 inches of trees, it's not the same. And you're talking about old growth trees that are very valuable and have huge impacts on the community, on the environment. So that's another thing that we're working on as well. Okay.
I would just add to involve the Sustainability Integration Board as well, because that's one of the subcommittees of the Sustainability Board is looking at the heat island effect, which is a direct cause of not having trees. So getting them involved in that subcommittee is going to be made up of not only a couple members of that committee, but also some community partners as well. So there's your caveat to getting private sector involved. So they're going to go to community and ask for help. So involving them and pulling them into it will also be a good help.
Yes.
All right.
No more questions or comments for Troy?
I do have a question, Troy, for you. Do you have an idea of when we'll see some of this work that I know you all are working tirelessly, obviously negotiating contracts and making sure that our parks are open and all of that jazz, but do you have an idea of when we should expect that?
So we did develop a small working committee. We've been meeting with them, getting some feedback. You know, it's every 2 weeks we kind of get together, kind of measure where we're going, where we want to go. We're going to be putting that together for a little bit longer. And then we're going to, I would imagine the next 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, have a pretty strong product by then. So I'm under promising and hopefully over deliver.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
States on restroom and drinking fountain accessibility.
Yep. So this was actually brought to my attention by Councilmember Ballard, and she had some questions in regards to why are some of our bathrooms not accessible? How come they stay closed? And there's a lot of different reasons for that. Vandalism is one issue. Cleaning is another issue, having staff to actually clean them. Seasonal, sometimes we keep them closed a little bit longer and open them up a little bit later. So we do have a lot of those issues, and we do have a contractor that actually cleans our restrooms for us. And one of the reasons why some of the drinking fountains were not open the past 2 years was part of the situation with COVID as well. I think this summer we'll have a situation where we can actually open up a lot of the drinking fountains without having that concern about what we're dealing with COVID. I think everybody's educated enough to be able to know how to make their decisions to protect themselves. In regards to the restrooms, we're still going to have the issues in regards to the homelessness, vandalism. We've had some situations where we've had thousands of dollars worth of vandalism occur in our restrooms. And as I shared with you guys in the past, we don't budget for vandalism. We expect every citizen to take care of our equipment just like they would take care of their own. But unfortunately, that's one of the issues. And then when it comes vandalized so bad, we don't have the resources to make the repairs. So that's when the situation occurs where we start closing some of the restrooms and use other alternatives such as porta potties, or just bring porta potties in just for events. So just wanted you guys to be aware of that. It's an ongoing issue, and it's something that it's really difficult to turn the tide on. Obviously, you can throw money at anything, and if we had more staff to actually monitor the restrooms more often, to clean them more often, those would be some of the low-hanging fruit alternatives to closing them. So just wanted you guys to be aware of that.
Troy, do you know how much we spend annually because of vandalism? Or maybe how much we spent the last 2 years on vandalism repairs?
I do not. We'd have to put some numbers together to figure that out.
Troy, thank you very much for speaking on this. As you know, this is something that's very important to me. The only point that I wanted to make on this particular piece is I think that we're talking about a broad set of accessibility issues, and I think that as we move forward in this process, I think that perhaps the scope that we're looking at, and I would be willing to be convinced otherwise if anybody hears this and they disagree, issues of access, of water, and of specific services of respite. All areas where human beings would interface with park projects and say, what is it that we're going to provide as a minimum level of service across all park properties. I think we need to have a policy in place for that, or at least a study of a policy in place for that, because we can talk about particular staffing issues, but until we can look at it in kind of an algorithmic approach where we say, well, this is what our standards are. We're to provide 18 hours a day of public accessible restrooms, or 24 hours as it were, or this is our self-cleaning model that we have, what is it that we want? And I think we're going to need to put that down on paper, so that would be my recommendation to the working group, and I'd be willing to contribute to that in some way, but that's, if we could have a positive product out of that, it would be, what's a clear, coherent plan, and something that works across all properties?
So there's a huge endeavor with that, but that's something that I want to talk about. When we make construction projects, what typically should happen is, here's the amenities that are going in, here is the resources that we need to maintain those. We don't necessarily keep up with that. In fact, when we had a situation where we lost a lot of staff, and we contracted out the mowing, and we released a large number of employees, those were the employees that were on a regular basis going out and cleaning restrooms, fixing the drinking fountains, making repairs, and actually checking and inspecting all of our facilities. Right now, we don't have staff to go even inspect our facilities. What's happening is we have in the summertime, we hire a mowing crew, and they go out and mow. In the past, that mowing crew would, if they were city employees, they would go out there and also inspect the restrooms, upgrade or clean the restrooms, or maintain the restrooms. And right now what we're doing is we're relying on contractors to come out and clean the restrooms. Now, if the restrooms are totally trashed, that's not necessarily within the scope of their work. They're supposed to come in and do X, Y, Z. So it's a difficult situation. What typically happens on, not just with parks, but with any kind of operation, you look at what do you need to meet the minimum standards, acceptable standards, and really high standards. It takes staffing, it takes X amount of hours, it takes X amount of resources, cleaning supplies, X amount of vehicles, this and that, the other. Those things we've put together, we share what those standards are. It's all a budget question. Okay.
Golf Advisory Committee member not attendance.
So we've had at least one member of the Golf Advisory Committee have not attended in a long, long while. And Alejo, I think this is your appointee. So my suggestion is that we find a replacement and do so rather quickly.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Do we need a motion? So I would motion that we look for a replacement for the District 1 Golf Advisory Committee representative.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Troy, will staff be sending him a notification, or would you like me? Okay.
We'll do it.
Perfect. Thank you. Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
I think that's actually in our bylaws, so we have to do it that way. Yes.
Sure. What's the time frame for response? Is it 60 days, 30 days? 10 days? Oh, perfect. All right.
Yeah.
More. Perfect. Thank you. I will hopefully bring a recommendation back to you within the next 10 days then.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Next park board meeting. Yeah.
Well, if there's nothing else, would like to skip the staff updates this month and move them to next month. Want to get everybody out of here at a respectable time for Valentine's Day. So I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. Favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.